You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to Thursday. My name is Brock.
I'm Dalby.
Another big win last night for the Leafs, and
It's crazy how much more willing you are to talk about sports when the Leafs win the night before.
well, do you want to know why the Leafs are winning?
Why are the Leafs winning?
Because John Tavares has got the secret.
He's got Jordan's secret stuff, or what's going on
No,
here?
he's got Russell Brand's amulet.
That's going to require an explanation.
So you remember Russell Brand, like the comedian? He kind of went a little.
Yeah, he went from doing like Get Him to the Greek to doing kind of a crazy podcast now, right?
Yeah. He's a little nutso right now, but he's got this company, and he's selling these amulets. They're like $300, and they're supposed to be like healing kind of things.
Well, I was going to say, when you use the word amulet over like chain or necklace or something like that does bring in sort of a mystical vibe to it.
He says it's supposed to heal all injuries. It's also supposed to protect you from things like 5G and Wi-Fi.
Oh
and,
my God, come on.
you know, all the stuff the government's trying to get at you with.
And you just know that like a guy like Tavares probably got sold on it by like the injury stuff because he's had some injury
He's not
problems.
even sold on it. He's sponsored by them.
Come on, he's being paid for this.
There's like, this is the real bio. Here, one sec. This is the bio from his website. It says, as a professional athlete, I have to stay healthy as possible and recover quickly when I get injured. So it's easy to understand why I've been relying on the technology for about 4 years now.
Okay, first of all, don't call it technology. It's just a piece of metal. Second of all, didn't he miss a big chunk of playoffs within the last 4 years?
Do you know what?
What?
It's all adding up. That concussion is
Yeah.
probably when he got the amulet. And he's been playing pretty damn good since, man.
No, the concussion is when his brain got injured enough for him to start falling for this shit.
All I'm saying is hockey players are superstitious enough that he's got 3 goals on the year already.
Oh no.
Maybe Austin Matthews only scored because he's got an amulet too.
You're going to start seeing the Toronto Maple Leafs when they walk into the building. They're all going to start looking like, what was that Mike Myers movie, The Love Guru?
Yeah.
It's going to be Austin Matthews walking through in like a meditation pose as they get ready for the game.
Whatever gets us a cup, baby.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I had to do something yesterday that I absolutely hate. And I've already had to do it a few times. And rather than just complain, it's okay if I do what I usually do and sing a song.
I love when you get your emotions out in song. Absolutely.
You ready? Here we go. It's fall now, some call it autumn. It's getting cold outside. Do I need a sweater? Most love the colors. People say it's breathtaking, but not me. I fucking hate those leaves because they keep falling. And I'm sick and tired of breaking. Worst part is I don't even have a tree.
Oh my God, yes.
On my damn property. They keep falling. Make me so mad.
That really spoke to me, especially the part at the end about not having a tree on the property.
You know, I know everybody's all about saving the environment and saving the trees.
Sure.
But around this time of the year, I really wish I had gotten to the profession of being a lumberjack sometimes.
You're ready to pull the axe out.
Yeah.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Question, if there isn't a tree on your property, is it wrong to obtain a blower and blow them back to where they came from?
Now, I'm not a lawyer, a cop, or a bylaw officer, so I can't speak with certainty, but I don't think there's anything legal stopping you from doing that.
The only thing I could think of is it might be considered dumping.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Vandalism of sorts,
But
maybe?
trust me, I have thought about it before.
100%. But the problem is that even if it's perfectly legal, if anyone in your neighborhood catches you doing it, you've made enemies for life.
Oh, it's a huge dick move.
Yeah.
But it's hard to resist the urge.
That's the thing, though. It feels like it shouldn't be a dick move. I've got the neighbor with the black leaves, like the purple leaves that fall onto my lawn. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to spot. He's the only one on our side of the road. These are clearly his leaves. I should be allowed to give them back.
I'm just returning what's yours. I mean, if you lost your cat and I found it, you'd want me to return it, right?
You'd give me a reward for that, but I find your 8 pounds of leaves every fall, and suddenly it's a bad thing.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I was just reading an article that apparently there's a small town in Germany that has actually had to ban cactuses in all municipal buildings.
Why?
For the funniest reason.
Okay.
Apparently, someone left a cactus on a ledge by a window.
Sure.
Someone left the window open. Someone knocked said cactus outside, and it landed on some dude's lap that was sitting on a bench outside of the building.
What are the odds?
And
you are cursed. If you are sitting on a bench and a cactus falls out of a building into your lap, you are cursed.
I mean, you got a good lawsuit on your hands probably, actually.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to get your hands on some money, but oh my God.
It's a good point, or probably a bunch of points, rather.
Multiple points.
But it got me thinking that, cactuses... It's a cute little plant to have in your home.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, cactus is one of those intrusive thoughts that come into your mind where you're like, I just want to touch it.
100%. Absolutely. I got a cactus when I was in high school. My mom bought it for me for some reason, and the first thing that I did was touch the cactus.
It should be illegal to own a cactus.
It's not a good idea.
Even like when I went to Vegas, we went out in the desert, and it was like to resist the urge just to feel it. Like, you know what it's going to do, but...
Right. There's no scenario, pardon me, there's no scenario in which you touch a cactus and it's like soft, gentle, feels good. You're going to get poked. That's the whole point of it. But I can't stop myself.
I will say there are certain things in life that it's like, you shouldn't touch it, but you want to. I mean, obviously, anything that says do not touch.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Big red buttons or anything like that. But even, I don't know how some of you pour cement out there, especially the guys that do sidewalks in this city.
And don't just draw or mess up every single block that you do.
Yeah, if I was doing that, if I was pouring that stuff, I would have got fired on the first day.
100%. This whole city would be covered in my initials or crude little drawings. Let's face it, we're all going to draw something phallic in there at some point.
It's cement, and then lava is another one that it's like, I know you should never touch, but it looks so creamy and crunchy. Like,
there's something so satisfying about watching lava pour down, like when it's not, destroying people's property and stuff like that. Just watching a lava flow is almost hypnotizing.
Right?
Is what it is. You almost feel like it's the siren's call. I know that if I go over there, that's it for me. But I wanna.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
What's something you shouldn't touch, but you really want to?
Oh, the cigarette lighter. Remember when we were kids in the old cars and the cigarette lighter?
Oh my God, yes.
You'd push it in, it would heat up, superheat, and then pop back out.
So when I was like 5, my dad had like an old... I don't even know what it was, but he was getting gas, and I put it in when he was getting gas, and when I came back, I was crying because I stuck my finger in the end of it.
No.
So cool to have the little ring on the end of your finger.
Right?
That's true.
It's basically the equivalent of touching the stove.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shiny things in kids don't work well.
No, they really don't.
What's funny is that's like one of those things that's only a certain generation of people
true.
get now.
My kids will never know because that's not a cigarette lighter port for them. That's a charger port. That's where you plug things in to charge tablets. They'll never know what it was like to sit there and look at the bright, glowing orange ember.
Look at my missing fingertip on my middle finger there.
Oh my God, you really are missing Prince.
I did it 3 times. I don't know why I did it 3 times. One time my dad came back to the car after being in Home Depot and I had my hands in the snow and he's like, "Did you do it again?" I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you,
It
Rick.
seems like everybody did that and then it was sticking their hand up in the fan.
The ceiling fan? 100%, man. I mean, the desk fan was always a little bit... Because the desk fan moves too fast. but you could set a ceiling fan to like speed 1 or speed 2. And especially if you're a taller person, you just reach your hand up and then it does that like.
Do you ever do that thing where you tried to jump and hit it with your head?
No, I would assume that I would have had to have burned my finger on a car lighter a few times before I got up to doing something like that.
You know, I don't want to hear anyone for a long time say that kids are idiots. The amount of text that we were getting of both of those things, people sticking their tongues to metal poles.
Someone said touching an electric fence.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
That kills people. Don't do that.
Honestly, I think they just shouldn't put signs on the electric fences because it's like, I was at my buddy's farm one time and it's like, we didn't think about it till we saw the sign and we're like, does it? Because you always, for some reason, you're like, does it work?
I bet this is just to keep people away.
Yeah.
I bet this is just all fake. Zap.
Although sometimes you do got to 3825 around and find out, you know?
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Home Depot is doing something that I think is pretty cool. They're launching a new policy that requires all corporate employees, including senior management and all that kind of stuff, to work a minimum of an 8-hour shift in one of its retail stores every quarter.
Oh, okay.
They're saying this is to bridge the gap between corporate and retail operations, also promoting empathy and better decision-making to ensure that all employees understand the challenges faced by store associates.
How did capitalism get to the point where we need to take people out of corner offices and make them work a 9 to 5 for no other reason than they can see how much it sucks to work in the store?
I think a lot of people will agree with me when I say this. I think most people's bosses could probably not do their job.
Honestly, well, it's different skill sets, right? Like maybe you're really good at the marketing aspect of things, or you're great with numbers, or you're an ideas guy. But when you've got to tell Jim, who's looking for finishing screws, what aisle and bin they're in, you have no idea.
I think if you've ever watched Undercover Boss, you see it where these people go into the jobs and they struggle. They're not used to actually working, right?
Right. Never mind make them work a 9 to 5, because I actually think that's kind of insulting to your base level employees to be like, we're going to have the COO come down once every 3 months and work arm in arm with you guys. No, make him build a treehouse for his kids using only stuff he bought at Home Depot.
You know
Prove that he knows how to help.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I saw a story about a woman whose house was surrounded by roughly 100 raccoons.
I've seen that video going around online. What was it? She was just like feeding them for years and now they've just started like gathering there.
There's like body cam footage from like one of the cops or somebody that had to show up to like help evacuate her from her home because she couldn't leave, fully surrounding the door. And he's like, okay, so explain this to me. You've been feeding these raccoons for 35 years. And now they've, like, I guess in the last 6 weeks or so, have really started to come around a lot more.
Yeah, well, the word is spread. I mean, that's the thing, is everybody thinks raccoons are cute. If you keep feeding them, they're going to come back.
That's just it. And, like, they grow in fairly big numbers, so they're going to bring 2 friends,
the
bring
whole
2
squad's
friends.
coming out.
And now you got 100 raccoons because you didn't know well enough to not leave them alone.
Yeah, it's too late to stop it at this point. But
It's their house.
I will say, this lady was smart about the situation. She could have like a Master Splinter situation going on.
What, like the Ninja Turtles?
I mean, she's already got them under her power by giving them food. If she could just figure out how to train those raccoons, she could have an army of raccoons.
Maybe
man.
that's where it went wrong. She was just feeding them for something to do, but she didn't have a plan in place. So now they outnumber her. They are in charge. But if she'd been a little bit more cunning about it from the start, she could have laid the groundwork for her own raccoon
You've
army.
already slightly gained their trust by having them come back for a meal every day.
They know that this is where they get taken care of. That's not nothing if you're trying to build trust.
I mean, think about it. If you could have an army of one animal, raccoons would be pretty great. I mean, as long as you have garbage, you can control them.
That's true. And we all have garbage. Like, imagine you just go to the dump and bring a bag and take it home with you, and now you've got your food for the week.
You could maybe train a bunch of raccoons to start doing Ocean's 11 style heists. Oh. They love stealing stuff.
That's just it. Like, they're so nimble nimble. They got such light fingers. Like, they are made to steal. And then also, for every human that thinks that raccoons are cute and would make a great pet, that's going to get you out of trouble if you get caught. And then on the other side, I feel like most humans think, oh, God, raccoons, rabies, scary, terrifying, and want nothing to do with you, which also makes it easy for them to make their getaway.
All you have to do is give the raccoons Stockholm Syndrome, and they're yours, man.
I don't think you have to go Stockholm Syndrome. I think feeding them would probably be a good start.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
A lot of people texting in about rats or mice, if they could control one animal and make an army of them.
I mean, you think about like old stories about like ships and stuff like that and how many mice and rats used to get on board. Like, you can really have strength in numbers if you have rats and mice at your disposal. They become, for lack of a better term, they become like a commodity. Like, you could afford to lose a few if you
could
had
be
them.
like an evil superhero villain in New York City if you could control the rats.
Like, imagine just standing in Times Square and summoning a tsunami of rats.
Yeah.
Like, that would be pretty crazy.
I also think insects could be the move because there's a few people that have texted in wasps.
Dude, imagine being able to throw wasps like a fireball, like a wizard in a movie, and just being like, Hadouken! But it's wasps flying towards somebody.
Wasps or mosquitoes could really do some damage.
I feel like those are two levels of evil, right? Like, if I'm really out to hurt people, then I'm obviously taking wasps. If I want to have my power to be to ruin someone's day, then I'm having mosquitoes.
Yeah.
I'm just constantly, like, I'm sending them into the rooms, I'm sending them into your home, I'm in your car.
If I worked for like a Give Blood association, I would control the mosquitoes.
Having sterilized mosquitoes taking unwilling blood donations.
Do you know how many people refuse to give blood? You'd be able to get so many pints.
But you'd get so little at a time. It would really be a 9-to-5 job trying to get all that blood.
Someone also just texted ants. There's billions and billions of ants all over the world, and they're super strong too.
That's true. Everything we've seen on like TV and movies about ants would lead me to believe that if I had a colony at my disposal, I could probably accomplish things.
I will say there's a handful of people texting in about crows. I didn't know.
Oh.
A lot of people are saying they're super smart.
Yeah, you can train crows. You have to like win their trust. Like, sort of like with the raccoons, like you've got to feed them and you've got to make them sort of get used to you being around. But after that, crows love to fetch things. So you can train them to like pick up coins and they'll fly around the neighborhood and like steal people's change and bring it to you. Yeah, this is a thing. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy, but apparently it is doable. Crows are super smart for animals and can be trained to bring you gifts.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it many a times that there's the alleged conspiracy that birds work for the government. If you can get the birds to work for you,
that's right.
Then that's the move.
Double agents, bring them over to your side.
I will say the people that are texting in about the cobra chickens, the geese.
Could you do it?
I don't think that works.
You don't think that the geese are untamable?
I mean, I think you could tame them, but I think it only works if you're a senior citizen or a snowbird at least.
There's pockets full of breadcrumbs.
Just when you get control of the geese, they go back to Florida. So, I mean, you have to at least be retired to control the geese.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
The Dodgers beat the Mets last night 8-0, but the highlight of the game was Shohei Ohtani getting hit in the nuts. Did you see this?
I did see it. And like on a foul ball that somehow like got past him and was low and he tipped it.
Call on this is fantastic.
Reaching for the splitter. Ball comes up quickly. Oh, no, I take it back. I take it back. It wasn't his side. Got him in a spot.
Got him in a spot. I do love that it was a splitter as well.
Yeah. Just a perfect pitch for this particular moment. And like biggest player on the team, big moment in the playoffs. Everybody's watching, and you can see as he's walking away, he's just like,
oh, he got booed right after too. Like the whole New York crowd was booing him the entire game. So that's gotta be a real kick in the nuts.
Absolutely, to put it gently, yep.
I do love baseball announcers, though. Sometimes they do like to have fun with it. I just love the...
Got him in a spot.
Got him in a spot.
Doesn't want to say, because, I mean, your natural response is to be like, oh, he got him. Well, I don't even know if we can say it.
If I was a baseball announcer, I would love to do stuff like that. Just like right in his designated splitter. Like
right in the DH.
Yeah, that's what we call a splitter. Or 2 balls, but still a strike would have been the best move right there.
Got him right in the peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
I wish Buck Martinez was calling that game, because you know what he'd do?
Get up, Buck! No, come back down!
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I found a survey yesterday, and I know you, maybe more than anybody in my life, are a big horror movie person.
Hell yeah, I am.
You love these movies. So they did a survey down in the States of adults who celebrate Halloween, and they started asking them questions about their horror movie history. And almost 2/3, 65% of the people who were surveyed in this study admitted that they watched their first horror movie at 11 or younger.
I'd agree with that for
Really?
sure. Yeah. I mean, we would do movie nights. My mom was a big scary movie person.
Oh, that's where you got it from.
But then again, it's like grew up in that kind of world of like Goosebumps. Are you scared of the dark? All that kind of stuff, right? So
I love Goosebumps in book form. I don't know why. It was like because I could control my imagination. As soon as they put it on the screen, I was like, no.
Now, I will say, I didn't actually like scary movies until I was probably in high school, but I was forced to watch them.
I think I saw my first one at like 7 or 8 with a babysitter that came over. My parents left the house, and she was like, "Do you want to watch a movie?" And I know I was young and dumb. I was like, "Yeah, fire up the VHS. Let's have a movie night." And we watched. Oh, what was it? Is Nightmare on Elm Street is Freddy Krueger?
Yeah.
It was one of the Elm Street movies, not the first one. So I do remember being confused as to what was going on, because they don't necessarily do the backstory every movie. And then just peeing myself for the rest of the night.
My sister used to do this thing where she would hold my eyelids open when I was scared.
She'd Clockwork Orange you?
Yeah, she'd just hold my eyes and make me watch movies, and it would freak me out. Like The Exorcist, I'll never forget when she turns her head around, and I was like, please, just make it stop. Like,
wait, isn't your sister younger than you?
no, she's older.
Oh, okay.
She's
the
2
older
years older
sister.
than me.
Okay. I just don't know. Like, my kids are 10 and 8 now, which means that they're running out of time to hit this sort of American threshold of when you're supposed to watch your first movie. And I'm like, do I sit them down and make them watch like a Friday the 13th before 11 just to be like, all right, get it out of your system?
I mean, I think it's kind of like making your kids play sports. Like, if they want to do it... I don't think you should force them into it, but...
I love the idea. The same way that there are, like, hockey parents and dance parents that are, like, living vicariously through their kids in
You
sports.
can't, like, force your kid to be into scary stuff. They gotta, have an inkling for themselves.
You're going to sit down and watch this just like your dad did when he was your age.
Yeah. I just want to watch comedies, Dad.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
It seems like that was most people's first scary movie.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that there were parents out there that just saw a doll on the cover of the video and were like, oh, this will be fun for the kids.
Well, it's the same thing like that Sausage Party movie that came out a few years ago. All these parents were like, oh, it's a movie about talking food. It couldn't be that bad.
And then it got real horrific, real fast.
Yeah.
And people were exposed to it, probably a lot of kids. You're right. Sausage Party is probably the introduction for a generation.
But even there's a lot of people on the text line that are saying Gremlins was their first scary movie that they watched when they were a kid. Technically, it's not a scary movie, but I think there's a lot of these movies that we saw when we were kids that almost freaked you out more than any scary movie could.
Do you remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Are you talking about the scene where he dips the live foot or whatever?
Yeah. Christopher Lloyd, who at this point in my life, I'm pretty sure I only knew as Doc from Back to the Future. I was like, oh, hey, it's that guy. Brutally murders a living cartoon by dipping it head first in acid.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid being like, hold on, stop the tape, hit pause. What just happened here?
That was one. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory terrified me as a kid.
So many kids got murdered in that factory and no one talks about it.
And then they're all just singing songs.
Right.
It's so ominous the entire time. It's like that Matilda I know I've talked about before. That freaked me out.
Miss Trunchbull.
Miss Trunchbull.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's so many of these movies. E.T. was another one that scared I was scared of the shed for the longest time just because of that opening scene when he's throwing the baseball in there.
You know what it is? It's puppets back in the day. Nowadays, everything's all like slick animation, CGI, and stuff like that, and it kind of takes the edge off. But back in the day, everybody remembers Jim Henson for giving us like Sesame Street and the Muppets and it being a part of our childhood. But he's also responsible for like the stuff in Labyrinth, the stuff in Princess Bride, the stuff in what's it?
All of Your Nightmares?
The Dark Crystal. All those like super creepy puppets that were like monsters of your childhood.
See, versus I think honestly for kids nowadays, it's not even scary movies because real life is more scary than any movie and they all have access to the internet.
That's just it, right? Like your kids can go on YouTube and learn the actual horrors of the world. Like they play games. My son talks about Five Nights at Freddy's all the time. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
It's a horror game based in like an old decrepit Chuck E. Cheese knockoff. And he talks about it like it's the most fun thing in the world. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
I grew up in that weird time where like we were really starting to get the internet like going into high school. So it'd always be like you'd sleep over at a buddy's house and then their older brother would be like, you guys want to see something crazy?
And you know what? They were never interested in your response. You could never be the kid that sat up and like, actually, no thanks. And they'd be like, all right, that's cool.
It was always like some Russian guys doing something weird.
Yeah.
Or it was like the Pain Olympics, whatever it was.
Oh, God.
If you don't know what the Pain Olympics is, don't Google it.
Do not Google it. Just trust us that it was a part of the internet you missed and you're better for it.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store. With all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.